All right. So yeah, we're going to talk about the current state of ProDOS 2.5 and Basic System 1.7. These are in development. Development was pretty rapid last year, and then the VidHD prototype cards came in, and ProDOS progress slowed a bit. But there's lots of cool things to show you and talk about, and we'll just get into it. So the first thing to do is see if we can get back to our program. There we go. All right, so so the first things that you'll notice here that are different is there's a upgraded version of BitsyBy. And so with ProDOS 2.5, we have lowercase file name support. And that the implementation of the lowercase file name matches what GSOS and the Finder use, which means that all files are in uppercase in the directory entries, but there are 16 bits where each set bit says that that character should be dropped to lowercase. So if an application isn't aware of lowercase, they will just read the directory entries and see all uppercase names. If they are, if they support the new lowercase capabilities, then they can drop the characters to lowercase. And in addition, ProDOS 2.5 automatically uses those lowercase bit flags and converts the uppercase characters to lowercase automatically, unless it's a 2 or 2 plus, in which case it leaves them uppercase. Also the bottom border is gone, and that has opened up the number of files that can be viewed at once in BitsyBy from is now 22 instead of 20. So we have 10% more files. There's also a few more options here. We now have the ability to hit delete to go right back to GSOS on a GS machine. So if you are using the Finder and you want to do some stuff in 8-bit land for a while, you can run ProDOS 8 and do multiple apps and then hit delete from here when you're ready to go back to the Finder. And then also with BitsyBy, you've always been able to hit a slot to see whatever whatever disks are in those slots. But if you had like a DOS 3.3 disk and you put it in, say, slot 2 here, BitsyBy will say, I don't know what's in that slot, but you can hit reset and just boot it. So any of the slots that you're browsing to, even if it doesn't know what's in that slot, you can just hit reset and boot right there. So effectively, it's combining what used to be in BitsyBoot, which was a return to GSOS and a reset and a boot feature. That's all now built into the default BitsyBy launcher inside ProDOS. So it's handy. Let's see. Other changes, I think we'll need to go to basic to demonstrate. So one nice improvement is in earlier versions of basic, on a 2E or 2C, you hit the delete key and you get the checkerboard every time. So that's now fixed. Hitting the delete key will actually delete the character. That was a tough one. It took more than 30 years, but eventually. So that's a good one. There's a new command called online, in case you want to know what devices you have in your system.
Sweet.
Knowing the slot and the drive, what it's called, and how much free space, that's kind of a useful thing. So that's now built in. Another thing that's useful is, so the year has been expanded from 7 bits, which is 127 years was what ProDOS and Basic supported in the past, 1900 to basically, I thought it was going to be 1999, of course. The world didn't end, so that's good. Yeah, so now ProDOS and Basic.System have a 10-bit year, so that's 1,024 years from 1900, so now we can make it to 2924 before the world ends. So that part's good. Yeah, exactly. So,
for a while.
Yeah, for a while, yeah. Unfortunately, there's still a year 2040 problem, at which point the 32-bit timer in seconds on the GS, that will expire, or basically wrap around, and we will go back to the Stone Ages, apparently. Yeah, it hasn't been updated yet, so that's one of the to-do items. Yeah, I'm going to be calling for help.
What happens with it? What does it wind up doing?
It just ignores the upper 3 bits. So as far as it's concerned, it'll just wrap from 2040 back to 1900. But I'm hoping we can get that fixed before before that happens. Yes. And let's see.
Where are the upper 3 bits?
The upper 3 bits are in the date field had a month, day of the month, and the day of the month went from 1 to 31. Fits in 5 bits with 3 zeros above it. So the upper 3 0 bits are now used as extended year support. There's also been a lot of kind of thinking and work about expanding the directory entry format. Right now it's 42 bytes, and we're keeping it there for compatibility reasons. I talked last year about maybe expanding it. So there's discussions going with multiple people about what kind of expansion would be a good idea and worth it, and blah, blah, blah. But there definitely is going to be an impact on software to make a directory entry size change. So we're making progress there, but there's really nothing to announce at this stage. It's kind of in progress. Yeah.
In the lowercase file name support, you mentioned that it'll keep them all uppercase for 2 or 2 plus. I didn't know 2 and 2 plus could run ProDOS.
Yeah.
They can up to 1.9, I think.
Well, no. So that was why I made the 2.4 one. So starting with 2.4 and forward, ProDOS now runs all the way back to the integer Apple II. So it's so ProDOS is now kind of as universal as DOS 3.3 is.
So it's all 6502.
Yeah, it's all 6502 code. And yeah, so now even the integer Apple IIs or the Apple II pluses with 6502 processors or unenhanced 2Es, all of those can run CFFA cards with 16 drives because SmartPort works. Excuse me. And SmartPort was one of the big additions in ProDOS 2 that was locked out of the earlier machines. Sorry. So yeah, so the year support. The other change, which I don't have an easy app to demo, is that the dash command will now load ProCommand files. So ProCommand has a lot of interesting extensions. It's going to be Breeden's package of ProDOS add-ons. Those ProCommand files expect to be loaded at 4,000. So basically on system now, if you do a dash in a file that has a type CMD, ProDOS file type CMD, it will load it at 4,000 and run it. So basically the command files can be auto-run out installed, which is handy. And then another kind of significant change to the dash command is for both binary files and system files, you can do arguments now. So you can do dash, copy file 1, file 2, for example, if you want to write a copy command or whatever. So as many as you want. So basically what happens now is basic.system, when it would parse running commands, whether with brun or actually it's with dash, it wouldn't allow anything after the command. So now the parser allows extra arguments, and it ignores them, and it puts the whole string of what the user typed at 200. And so when a program is started up, it can look there, and it can find the path name to itself, it can find the arguments, so that's pretty useful. And then combining that with the, I guess the other one I haven't talked about, which is pretty useful, is oops, let's see if I can get in here.
Would you mind demoing opening a program with an argument? Because that's a really significant thing.
Yeah, unfortunately, the only tools that I have written to do that are for the vidHD, they're vidHD utilities, which require the real hardware. So I kind of realized I didn't have anything written that I could demo. So if we're in a subdirectory and say that we have something in the parent directory, in the past you'd have to retype that whole path. Now we can just go up a level, and so now we went up to the Merlin directory, or we can do up a couple levels, and now our prefix is up at the root. So this is a pretty big thing as far as you can have an application which gets installed somewhere on a hard drive. It doesn't need to know the name of the hard drive. It doesn't need to know how deep it is in the hierarchy of the hard drive. It can have subfolders, and those subfolders can come back up to the parent without having to go all the way to the root or know the name or any of the rest of that stuff. Now, the way this is implemented is not quite the same as on Unix, because this isn't a directory entry or anything like Unix would do. The file name parser in ProDOS, it used to have two types of path names. It would either have a full path name that started with a slash and had to be everything, or it would be a partial path name, which is always just tacked onto the end of the prefix. So what I changed is the partial path name parser now recognizes as many leading dot slashes as you want to have, and it will strip off one degree of prefix and then reconstruct a whole new full path name as if you typed the whole thing without you having to know what it is. But one consequence of that is you can't do some number of dot dots, then some number of names, and then some more dot dots. You know, however many directories that you want to pop, those all have to be at the start of the partial prefix. But in practice, this totally gets the job done as far as being able to move around in directories without nearly as much typing and pain. So this combined with the arguments is important, because now you can give arguments which is like dot dot or whatever. So those two things I think open up a lot of interesting possibilities as far as options for basic system improvements or tools that help basic or ProDOS. Anyway, so lots of things can be done. So that's pretty handy.
Fantastic.
And let's see. Okay, so now let me go back to the slides, and we'll see how well I was able to remember all the new stuff.
You only have one block free, or is that right?
No, I probably have one block free. Yeah, it's yeah, rather. Let's see. Yeah, everyone agrees. Oh, and yeah, and 0 blocks free on the on ProDOS 2, 14, which sounds right. Okay, so let's see if I can go over here. Fortunately, I have way too many things running, so my system is buggy. All right. So yeah, this is a quick summary of the features and see what I forgot, if any. So yeah, we have the lowercase file names. Now, the way that I'm currently disabling lowercase on the 2 and 2 plus is it looks at ProDOS's machine type ID in the global page of BF, whatever it is. And if the machine type is a 2 or 2 plus, then it just disables returning lowercase names. If it's a 2E, 2C, GS, then what ProDOS does is every time it reads the uppercase names off the disk, it also grabs the case bits and changes the uppercase names to lowercase and then passes them to the application, so that applications automatically get the lowercase files without having to know about this case bits and where they are in the machinery. So it's fairly automatic. Now, there are a few applications which don't like seeing lowercase names, and I'll talk about that in a minute. There's the .dot support, and then the 1,000 year support. Let's see. Oh, I think I may have a mistake here because my slides are confused. Hold on. Where did my slides go?
Would you be able to have 2 files with basically the same name but different capitalizations?
No, because they'll be stored in the directory structure as if they will look the same name, because they would be all uppercase. So that's one of the reasons that it's done this way, is there's no chance for collisions on the names. All right.
That's if you did, then how would you tell which one was which on the 2 or plus?
Yeah, right.
If you run on an integer Apple II, you can't actually run integer-based programs, I assume, because there's no int-basic system.
No, although there is a version of integer basic that has been created that runs out, that does not run the language card. It runs down lower, and so with that version, yeah, you can do integer basic. But yeah, really, it would be nice to have a more supported version of integer.basic under ProDOS. Particularly like it with the 2E and C and GS, where you have 120K of memory, and maybe you can put integer in the OGS language card. I mean, it would take some surgery probably to make that stuff happen, but it should be doable. Okay, so yeah, the bitsy byte changes were kind of the file list, adding lowercase file names, reset to reboot a slot, and return to GSOS. For the basic system, we have the delete key, the online dash will run pro command files, and also give you the arguments. So this is the syntax effectively. What you can do dash of a file, and then as soon as the basic system parsers, as soon as the basic system parsers see the space, it stops and runs that file. This whole string is put at 200, and so if the app wants, it can just go scan to a space and then process the arguments. Nothing fancy, but it's an enabling step. Okay, so next steps. I plan to modify the VF100 global page so that it's easier to turn on and off some of these features without having to change the machine type to force stuff, particularly for the lowercase. So CapG Plus and CapDoctor have different unhappiness levels when they see lowercase names. CapG Plus, when it sees a lowercase volume name from ProDOS 2.5, goes, oh wait, I'm not sure, this doesn't look like normal ProDOS, it must be a DOS33 disk. And so it tries to use its built-in DOS33 parser, which doesn't really work out very well. So my plan right now is to have a global page variable which allows us to just disable features. So apps that don't play nice with lowercase or the big year support for some reason, we can just turn those features off so that ProDOS will use the older interface, basically the older methodology for those apps. But I think we probably want to modify a few key apps that are in heavy use so that they work with lowercase and they work with the longer year, that kind of thing. So yeah, looking for contributors because modifying either of those two apps is a very easy standalone thing that anyone can do, and might be an interesting learning experience. And also looking for testers. So there's enough new stuff in now that it's kind of getting to the point where we probably need to go with a broader coverage and try some apps. And just I've been using this as my kind of daily driver, ProDOS for the last since January. And it's been fine. I have found some bugs along the way, but it really just needs more eyeballs. So I encourage people to participate if they have time and interest. Yeah, and that's it. Questions?
Did any capabilities of ProDOS 2.4 or Apple's versions have to come out in order to make room for all this new stuff?
Not intentionally, or at least not as far as I know. Yeah, most of the work to put these features in actually wasn't putting the feature in. It was rewriting big chunks of not very efficient code to get enough bytes to put the stuff in. So yeah, as far as I know, nothing. But that's the reason why I need testers, because there's testing of the new features, but as important or maybe more important is just making sure there's been no regressions in previous functionality. But good question. Yeah.
With the year change, will hardware like the no-slot clock or other things take advantage of that automatically, or would they have to be updated? Or? Yeah,
they would have to be updated. So I wrote a no-slot clock driver, which I intended to embed into ProDOS. I haven't updated that yet to the new format because there's still some discussion as to exactly what that, is 10 bits the right size, and is it 3 bits and 7, is that the right way to store it? And so I've held off on on modifying the various clock drivers, so the Thunder clock and the GS clock and the no-slot clock drivers, to adopt the new format until I'm sure we've locked it down. So
it should just be a driver issue, not a hardware issue.
Correct. Yeah.
Ultimately.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. As far as I know, that there's no real hardware issues with any of these changes. It's really just going to be the driver has to know about the limitations of each piece of hardware. And so, for example, once we hit 1940 and the GS clock wraps over, we'll need to know that year 1900 is really 1941 or whatever, or 2041, right? So yeah, we have to. The drivers will need to have some changes. But yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else? Yeah.
What's the state of technical documentation?
Pretty much nothing. There's some emails, but there's really been no updating of the docs. When I've released ProDOS in the past, I've basically had a README file that listed changes, and then there's been some discussions on the on Usenet groups and some posts like on a Apple website. Yeah, that's another area that would be great if someone wants to help be a contributor, is just gather up some of this information which is out there in different forms. And also, I think someone made a pretty good text-based or HTML-based version of the ProDOS technical manual many years ago. But it's quite editable as I understand it, and so it'd be another nice thing to do is to kind of incorporate the new things into that documentation so we have more of a canonical reference for how things work. All right, anything else? Yeah.
Is there any reason to think that, do we know whether ProDOS 2.5 works with Apple Shared Servers?
I think it does. Michael Gudero, I don't know if you've tested 2.5 or, you know, if Apple Shared Servers?
It appears to work, but I haven't given it a thorough go through.
Okay. Sounds like a good thing to test.
I will check it.
Okay, that'd be good.
Apple Share, is largely independently an independent implementation of the MLI. So if it gets the call first, then it's going to do what it normally does, and the only thing that might be an issue is like prefix changes while you're prefixed to an Apple Share directory might not work out with the dots and a few things like that. Our core cases need to be fleshed out and tested.
Okay, yeah.
If you tested it, using ProDOS on Mac.
No, yeah, I haven't tried it on Mac. Michael might have. I think he's got a 2 compatibility or 3 card, right?
Yeah, it will boot on it, but again, that's not what I typically test on. I've been using 2.5 on my PC for the most part. That's where I've been spending most of my time on it.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that we tested further.
I think you may have been talking about the Mac OS's ability to read ProDOS disks.
Oh, okay. You know, that shouldn't be affected other than unless it doesn't like once we get past 1940 or 2040, we may not like the extra bits. So that we've used, but again, that's another thing that probably should be tested and will be pretty easy to test. Just we use a block editor and put some bits in there and then see if what the Mac does with it. All right, anybody else? Thank you.
Thanks, John. A little break here while Steve Buggy gets set up for his power boosting session. About 5 minutes or so.
Awesome.
I just downloaded all this out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, that's one of the big questions as to whether we want to only go to 10 bits and have a white people problem, or whether we can go to 18 bits and then have a 10 bits problem. So I'm just going to define it. The alternative work. Let's go all the way to but I already have taken in those that we're doing it.
Do you want a CD or USB version?
I have to say, as much as I hate PDFs on just PDF, I love sound. It's like printing.
Oh, hey, I like buying because I got it. I got it.
And if you had ordered the CD or USB, it comes with access to a download as well. No, but you still get access to it. So if you lose your CD drive or your CD-ROM, you still collectively use it. You buy the USB. I probably didn't. It's
Well, he said to me, the problem is, I thought it might work in her emulator because we said I did the virtual base, but it's not communicating. But that's not
She is great. That was one of her favorite.
Yeah.
That is a great little,
Yeah,
there's a little
yeah.
cushion in there, a little mapping. I love to mess.
It's a roll top deck, and it's got shower doors
Don't
there,
close the top and forget
shower doors there, and below that is a double head door that's got hanging signs. The
pedals on the other side has a shelf that folds out.
That section.
You see the lighter part there? The darker strip on the front is pulled off. But that's a tray that pulls out. Both pedals on the top of the tray pulls out. The center section of the desktop here pushes back. This front panel flips down underneath. Are you there? And the Thule is inside there. I don't have a picture of the whole desk.
It was actually pretty nifty.
It was originally made for PCs, and that shelf was just for me. PCs had a fantastic keyboard. Keyboard would be only made that. And where these chemicals are open here, on the other side, there was just a big cubby space there for the computer to go in. And these drawers hold 3 camping sticks. There's 2 working inside, 5.25. But I saw it at a computer show. I saw it at a computer
but in a very non-obvious way.
And I just fell in love with So he asked for I measured the height of the computer, the width of the computer, the depth of the computer, the height and depth of the disk drives. And so he modified that. So if you can get this in there, the disk drives sit in the space over on the right where the case would have and it has 2 compartments. The middle drawer of these 3 is so if you pull the top drawer out all the way, there's a little compartment behind it. And if you pull out these little shelves, which you could, I think the top 2 shelves, the back behind them, flip it back, there's a compartment that goes down behind it.
Wow.
So, you know, if I got one there, $12 or whatever bag of basically my siblings come in and steal this, I hide them in one time I saw this.